This is Work and Learn Abroad. Welcome to this new episode of Work and Learn Abroad. Today I'm with Balazs Edes, and he will correct the way that I say his name. He's a professional software engineer here working in Ireland. So Balazs, if you tell about you to the people.
Sure. So pronunciation was almost correct. It's Balazs Edes. I am from Hungary, so it's we have a few weird names. And I moved to Ireland 2.5 years ago, and I work here as a developer.
Are you from a small or like a big city? How is your city back at Hungary?
So I have been growing up in the outskirts of Budapest, the capital.
Okay.
But I spent the rest of my life, so since I moved out from my parents, I spent the rest of my life in Budapest. Okay. So I should say I'm from the capital.
Okay. And what's were your motivation to go out of the country?
So that's an interesting story. Hungary was a communist country. So around the time I was born, that was the time when we basically started to recover, or I would say we completely recovered. And at least in the family I have grown up in, all the Western countries seemed super shiny. So everything that's going on outside the Eastern Bloc seemed to be much more appealing. And when you see, for example, the success stories of people with their companies, like how Zuckerberg managed to get Facebook in the current position, then that kind of adds up and gives you motivation to have a look at how things are looking like outside of Hungary.
And what about the language? Because Hungarian language is kind of different from English. So where did you start to learn English, or how was your approach to that?
I am completely screwed with the languages. So I haven't heard about any language that has too many similarities with Hungarian. So basically, when I hear like Italian, Spanish people, they almost can understand each other while speaking their own language. That wasn't really working for me.
Okay.
So I learned first German. That's more these days. That's more relevant in Hungary. Many German companies are there. So, for example, my father is working for Bosch, and I have been learning that in school. And after that, I kind of picked up English while I was learning programming, software engineering in school, because mostly documentation and everything was in English. So the approach to that was initially just look up stuff in a dictionary, and then starting to listen to podcasts like this one. So listen to native speakers.
Yeah.
And for example, I have absolutely no idea about grammar in English. Probably my pronunciation is not the best either, but Irish people can understand me. So that's...
No, it's good. It's good. It's good to know that people have just taken from whatever resources they have. And so, were you at the end of your university? Did you go to university, or did you jump out of the wagon at high school and started to work? And at what point in your life you started to actually take serious steps to go abroad?
So yeah, I was on university. I started working at my second year at the university, so I was basically working in the field I'm currently working in, just without experience, so like an internship. And I have been working in Hungary for I think 3.5 years or so altogether, and I basically had this in mind all the time. So throughout my whole career, that I would like to try my luck outside of Hungary at some point. And it was when I was around 25 when I actually realized it and moved to Ireland.
It's about the time.
Yeah.
So how did you do it? Did you start to search for jobs in Hungary?
So the first thing I have done is basically figured out which country do I want to go to. And I was first looking at how should I go to the US. That was my initial plan, go to there. But then I was like, okay, this is probably a little bit too big of a step at first to switch continents. And then I started looking at the English-speaking countries around Europe. So that left me with the United Kingdom and Ireland. And I decided that the plan is to go to Ireland in the end. And the interesting thing is that I did most of my research online. So the first time I have been here in Ireland in person was actually at my last job interview. So that is probably not something that I would recommend. If you have traveling experience, you have moved around different countries, then before you decide to go to a place, definitely check it out more than I did, because I could have gone much more unlucky.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, it's some. In my case, what I read about Ireland was online as well, and no book, so that was merely online, and then I just jump into the plane, and then it was lucky. I was lucky, I will say, but it could be worse than that. And you saw some, like, you got a job before leaving Hungary, or do you just came?
So I moved to the job. So I started interviewing for this company, and there were a few rounds of the interview that we could do just through the phone or through Skype or I don't remember how we did that, but definitely not in person. And for the last round, I came over, and that was actually the first time I have been outside of the country without basically anybody.
And what were your feelings before taking that plane for the last round of interviews? Because you were paying your own ticket, or the company paid the ticket?
Company paid the ticket.
Okay. And location, like accommodations, they were being given by the company as well?
Yeah, it was pretty nicely sorted out. So work, they provided while I was just here for the interview, they paid for the Airbnb, and after that, when I actually got hired and moved to the country, I got temporary accommodation for a month, which was kind of helpful because I had no idea what am I doing here.
Yep. So what were your feelings before leaving the country and knowing that you were coming to Ireland? I'm going to do it now, and I'm leaving the country, I'm leaving family behind, I'm leaving friends behind, I'm leaving my dumbbells behind as well. So how was those feelings?
Yeah, I was just like, okay, screw it, let's do it.
Okay, excitement and
yeah, it's it was a very a different thing from what I have done before, but I didn't really have any second thoughts, so I just went with it.
And once that you were here, and I'm thinking about, you got the job, you moved to Ireland, you were having the Airbnb, you get those first days in the country. What were going through your mind?
So the first, I think the first month, that was kind of nice. You know, you're in a different country. Yeah.
Yeah, you were having your Irish honeymoon.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that the famous crappy Irish weather wasn't really hitting me, so it was nice and sunny.
Okay.
I was moving around August.
Yeah, you were asking, well, why the people are complaining about Irish weather? This
So the first difficulty was when I tried to find a place to rent. So if you are thinking about moving to Ireland, maybe not the whole of Ireland, but if you are planning to move to the capital, it's not the best for the renters currently. So that was the case when I moved as well. So it took a while. I think I almost took the whole month that the company provided for me for the initial period of time, but eventually I managed to find an okay place. That was one of the big downgrades compared to Hungary, because there I was doing the same job, and compared to this place, the amount of money it took to rent a really nice place. So I was living alone then, and I am living alone now as well, and then I could basically rent for the same percentage of my salary a much nicer place.
Yeah.
And here, I'm not saying I'm living in a crappy place, but it's
Yeah, the standards are not the same.
yeah. So
Yeah.
the housing is definitely, I would say it's worse. Like that's something that got worse compared to my
Yeah.
Hungarian living standards.
That happened to me as well because we were used to different kind of modern apartments,
Yeah.
and you get all these new stuff, and especially because you get a profession where you could get a reasonable amount of money as a salary, so you kind of feel like, yeah, I kind of could be living here at these standards. And then when you start to check prices here and start to check places, and then you see what's the status of the places, you're like, oh, well, why I'm paying this, like double the price for half the quality. And
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely you need to adjust your expectations, I would say. And that is the case for accommodation. What about culture? Do you have any culture shock?
Culture shock, not really. I would say that most places I have been in Europe since kind of have similar cultures. Obviously, there are differences in like different different holidays and stuff like that. So there are things that we don't do and Irish people do. I can't really think of anything that about that at the top of my mind, but there were a few things like this.
What about one of the things that we were talking in another interview was they were saying that like British people usually are more kind of indirect to say stuff than the French, and well, Irish people compared to Hungarian culture. How do you feel? Like, are you more direct to say things, or do you feel that you have to switch your ways to say this stuff?
So I am more direct anyways. I don't really care too much, but it seemed to be like it didn't really seem to be a problem. So some people are a little bit like how should I say?
Sensible.
They are surprised if I say something negative, even at work, without trying to like wrap it in
in a good package. Yeah.
Like in a shit sandwich. Where I start with something nice.
Yes.
So
that's true.
If I just say like I don't like it because of this and that, it's a little bit surprising at first, I think, but they got used to it. So
yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
Now I'm now thinking about the way that offers, like employment offers, have been done. Some companies provide here stock, more days for PTO, and sometimes even insurance or stuff like that. So compared to what you've seen before coming to Ireland and now, do you see a difference, like in how that job hunting is done?
Yeah, so definitely. The one thing that was a big upgrade is basically the working culture. So here, or at least at the company I'm working at, the thing that I can say about it is it's very relaxed. I am absolutely not stressed out, and if I need to take personal time, then the only thing that I have to do is say that I'm gonna do this, and there is no like looking at you with a how should I say that? English, please.
Yeah, well, no, it's true. Like, I remember when I used to be working in Costa Rica, and if you were asking for a couple of hours sometimes, and you were seeing like you were begging, and for time and sometimes you were just staying longer hours at some places, but when you are asking for time for you, the people start to see you in a really weird look, and here they don't do that. They you got some personal stuff to tend, go do it. They don't really care. They care about just that the job is done and is done properly.
Yeah, exactly. So back in Hungary, I don't want to name any companies, but I have been in a situation where it didn't really look good if you like left 5 minutes early to
Oh yes,
like
true. Yeah,
grab a package or something.
yeah,
So it's kind of nice here. For example, I am going out for working out throughout the day, so kind of in a lunch break, and I'm doing that for like a year or so. And since other than that, I'm doing my job okay.
yes. Yeah.
Nobody really
That's
bothers me with that.
That's pretty neat because I remember that when I just started to be working here in Ireland and I saw some of my colleagues doing that for the midday, taking the stuff and going to the gym, and I was like, what?
That's surprising first.
Oh yeah, I was surprised. Like, why are they leaving? And then what? And they came back like an hour and a half, or maybe 2 hours later, and I was like, whoa! And then you, yes, because you work, but work is part of life, and it's not. So yeah, definitely. I think you and me could agree to. We advise people like choose carefully.
Yeah.
Do you, when you were looking for a job, were you looking LinkedIn or any website? What websites could you recommend to people?
So I think I have been on LinkedIn, and I have been on more specific site like Stack Overflow, which is mostly for software engineering and related stuff. So I think I have found this job on that site.
Oh, okay.
But if you are in this profession, then I don't think you will have too much problems finding a job almost anywhere if you are patient enough. Because I have been interviewing to other places here as well, but there were obviously jobs that didn't work out. So.
Yes, it's definitely quite an active market in Ireland because you see recruiters pitching you, and then you get mails about people offering new positions, and it's quite surprising because you see a lot of things like could go from one place to the other, but you need to choose carefully.
Yeah.
And if you were going back in time, and let's say you've been here 2.5 years, let's say you find that Balazs from 3-4 years ago, what would you say to that guy to actually motivate and to do this jump?
Yeah. What would I do differently? So one thing that I should have done differently from the start is socialize more. So these days I don't really have time, to be honest, and too much energy to go out and expand my my circle of friends.
Yep.
But I definitely should have, and even now I should invest more energy in that. So once you move out here, you have to realize that you don't have your old friends with you anymore.
Yeah.
You don't have your family anymore, and you are kind of alone if you don't have a friend here. So it's kind of important, and I've seen other guys doing this much better than I have, and basically don't really give a crap about anything, just going out and socialize with everybody.
Yeah.
And it kind of ends up happier because then you were exposed to more people, you have a bigger group of friends. So that's something I definitely should have done in the past. Also, the other thing I should have done is first, I don't want to say any numbers, but first time I moved here, my salary wasn't really on point. So since then I managed to
that's
to
quite
push it up.
important. Yeah.
But since at the time that was the only offer that I was interested in, I was like, okay, I am not gonna negotiate on this. But I definitely should have.
That's one thing that is quite important, and that we have said in another shows, because when we are outside of Ireland and then we see the salaries and then we get an offer and we say, oh well, that's not that bad. I can manage that.
Yeah.
I could be happy with that number. And we don't dare to negotiate. We don't dare to kind of ask for all the benefits. And we think that money will be enough.
Yeah.
And then once that you start to work, and then things start to change. You see, oh, actually, I'm not in the scale that I should be.
Yeah. So for me, it was definitely a drop in terms of living standards at first when I moved out, and that is mostly because I didn't negotiate too much.
Yep.
So, yeah.
How did you handle that moment? Because well, you were here, you came, you wanted to be abroad, you started to use your English and see, you started to have experience here in Ireland,
Yeah.
right? So well, the salary was not there for you, like you were saying. There was a drop in your standards of
Yeah.
what you were used to do or used to have at hand, to what you were having at the moment. So maybe your spirit was kind of low. So how do you manage to don't break and say, okay, I was having a better life in Hungary. Fuck it, I'm going home.
I wasn't really aiming for, especially a better life now. It was kind of an experiment for me. So the start wasn't the smoothest. So when I moved out here, after like the third month, I got diagnosed with a fairly it's not the worst, but a cancer. So I have been treated for until from, I don't really know when it started, the treatment, but it took a while. And after that, the recovery took a while as well. And so dealing with all that stuff at first, in the beginning when I moved out, wasn't really the nicest.
Yeah.
But the way I was looking at it is that it's a new experience. I mean, being out here.
Yep.
And I shouldn't really bother that much with the salary. I should just try to enjoy myself here. And
so you didn't break, you didn't think about going back.
It definitely discouraged me a little bit, but I didn't think about going back immediately.
Okay.
In the end, I probably will end up back in Hungary at some point. I don't really want to live my whole life here.
Yep.
But it didn't really discourage me, that part. Like, I have seen that, this probably wasn't the best decision. I probably either should negotiate it up later or move to a different job. But the interesting thing was that this workplace basically recognized that this salary that I'm receiving is
it's
lower
it's not as the others can be.
not on par yet. So they basically increased it without me asking.
Oh,
And
great.
then since I wasn't really happy with what I was doing after a while in terms of the job, I also made a mistake of not saying that I would like to switch.
Okay.
So, and I started looking at different jobs.
Oh, okay.
And when I said, okay, I'm gonna leave, here is another offer, then it wasn't a mistake, but then I also got a raise. So it's kind of worked out in the end.
Well, they worked out. Maybe it's not the way they should be done, but it worked, at least for you. Because one bit is, you could come with any job offer, good job offer from any company, but if you're not good at the current company, the company that you are, they will not care. Like, so, okay, you got another offer. Actually, I don't really fancy you anymore here, so you can go ahead.
Yeah.
But if they are happy with what you're doing, and they know that you're being actually kind of you're wanted at somewhere else, so they say like, well, actually I can give you more money, and it's part of that. Maybe that we are not used to negotiate in the best way, and well, this kind of stuff is what.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's a very valuable experience too. Once, or at least first, like, be honest when you're coming for a job, and like kind of have an idea of what you want, and also like say what you can bring to the table in return. Since you are basically selling your time, so you are spending here 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So time is something that you won't get back. So you should be receiving, obviously in like reasonable limits.
Yes.
What you think you are worth. And if a company isn't willing to give that for you, then you won't really be happy there.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really nice to say that up front. And since then, I have been interviewing to other places, and I think they appreciate it as well if you say that up front what you want.
Yeah, I think at least in another cultures it would be different if you go up front and you just say like, oh yeah, actually I'm interviewing at some other place, so that kind of mind your relationship with your boss or your place, and I sometimes hear actually like, well, you know, I'm not happy and I might be looking for somewhere else, and they might offer you something better.
Yeah.
It could be switching job or I'm inside the company, and sometimes it's just much money.
Yeah, but that's another thing that is definitely would be worth it to calculate the cost of living, because even if you receive an offer that sounds really nice, it might not be the best for the given country.
Yes, true. Well, I'm not sure if you have any last advice for the people, or if you're good with what you're saying.
Usually, I think the way the reason people try to move out is because we think that the neighbor's grass is always greener.
Oh yes, true.
But don't dismiss your home country immediately.
Yes.
But also don't be afraid to try to do different things.
That's a great phrase. Any way that the people can contact you?
Yeah, I think you could contact me on Instagram. It's at supergreenfrogo.
Okay, great. Well, see, you get a Frogger there.
Yeah.
And in my case is leonardo.martin@pn.me. And thank you for being with us. And hopefully you will keep coming and listen to more stories about professionals who are abroad and they have their bit of life to share. Thank you, Balazs.
Thank you for having me.
Great. See ya. This is Work and Learn Abroad.